Have you ever stopped to ask yourself why you curate the version of you that exists online? Why the lighting must be perfect, the caption must be sharp, the image must scream confidence or productivity, even if in reality you're barely holding it together? The truth is simple but uncomfortable. We present who we want to be, not who we actually are. That online persona isn't born from authenticity. It's born from aspiration, insecurity, and the need for approval. Every post, every filter, every highlight is a carefully selected puzzle piece of your fantasy self. Behind it all is a powerful neurological loop, the dopamine cycle. Every like, comment, and share triggers a small burst of chemical validation. It feels like progress, like belonging, like significance. And soon, that feedback becomes addictive. You're no longer sharing moments. You're seeking permission to matter. And the more validation you receive, the more curated your persona becomes. It starts to drift further and further from reality until the line between who you are and who you pretend to be is completely blurred. Think about it. Social media is your highlight reel, not your documentary. It's the trailer of the life you wish you lived, stitched together in 15-second clips and filtered images. But there's a danger in maintaining that fantasy for too long. As the character V once said in V for Vendetta, you wear a mask long enough you forget who you were beneath it. Pretending isn't harmless. It erodes your identity. You begin to believe the lie, and worse, you start to fear the truth. So here's a challenge. Just one simple question, one you're probably not used to asking. What parts of you are real, and what parts have you borrowed for show? Answer it honestly. Your growth depends on it. There's a quiet kind of suffering that comes from pretending. It's not loud, it doesn't scream. It hums in the background of your life like white noise you've forgotten how to turn off. It's the weight you carry when your reality doesn't match your presentation. Psychologists call it cognitive dissonance, the mental tension created when your actions and your identity are out of sync. You might call it something else: anxiety, burnout, imposter syndrome. But no matter what you name it, you know exactly how it feels. You admire a version of yourself that you've never actually met, the confident, focused, driven person you portray online, the one with the color-coded calendar, the 6 a.m. workouts, the hustle mindset. You look up to that person. You want to be that person. But deep down, you know you're not living it. And that disconnect begins to rot your self-worth from the inside out. At first, it's just discomfort, a slight hesitation when you post a caption you didn't earn, a subtle guilt when someone compliments your discipline, knowing you haven't left your bed all day. But over time, that discomfort compounds. You stop trusting yourself. Your inner voice gets quieter, and shame takes its place. The longer you stay in that gap between who you say you are and who you actually are, the more your self-respect withers. Because here's the truth. It's not your failures that haunt you. It's your potential. It's the realization that the person you're pretending to be could actually exist. If only you'd stop performing and start doing the real work. That gap, it's not just emotional discomfort. It's the cost of your unrealized self. So ask yourself, how long will you live in admiration of a version of you that doesn't exist instead of becoming them for real? Why you should become that person for real? Let me tell you something you might not hear often enough. That idealized version of yourself, the one you showcase online, the one who seems so composed, driven, clear-headed, intentional, that version isn't a lie. It's a blueprint. It's not a mask meant to deceive others. It's a message from your subconscious about the person you know you could become. And the reason it haunts you, the reason you feel that gap so deeply, is because some part of you already knows it's possible. You didn't create that avatar randomly. You built them from pieces of your desire, your potential, your values, your aspirations. You assembled that person, that online version of you, from all the qualities you admire and wish you lived with. But here's the powerful truth most people miss. You can become that person. Not in appearance, not in filters, but in reality, in actions, in presence, in principle. See, the reason you feel exhausted from pretending is because your soul is starved for alignment. When your inner values match your outer actions, life stops being a performance, and starts becoming peace. You don't need to filter, stage, or fabricate anything. You become the proof. And that's where real confidence is born. Not from applause or attention, but from knowing that your life behind the scenes is even more honest, more powerful, and more grounded than what anyone sees on a screen. When you are truly that person, when your habits match your words, when your discipline echoes your intentions, when your character aligns with your image, you don't need to fake anything anymore. You are it. And that's when everything changes. That's when people listen differently. That's when you walk differently. Because you're no longer trying to convince anyone, you're just living it. And maybe that's the real definition of power. Not domination, not status, but integrity. The complete alignment of your words, your actions, and your identity. So stop treating your fantasy self like fiction. Start treating them like a future, because they're not some distant dream. They're just waiting for you to catch up. How to start becoming that person. So you've realized the gap. You feel the tension between who you are and who you pretend to be. But now what? Awareness is powerful, yes, but change only begins when awareness becomes action. It's time to move out of your head and into your habits. Becoming the person you pretend to be online isn't about some overnight transformation. It's about consistent embodiment. Here's the framework. Follow it, and things will start to shift one day at a time. Start by studying your own digital self. Scroll through your posts, your captions, your stories. Write it all down. What does your online self claim to value? What habits do they signal? How do they speak, think, live? Are they early risers, deep thinkers, fitness fanatics? Calm, driven, intentional? Define it clearly. Then take it one step further. Separate the image from the substance. Posting gym selfies doesn't make you disciplined. Talking about hustle doesn't mean you're productive. Image is cheap. Substance is earned. Get honest about what's real and what's aesthetic. Now the hard part. Face your reflection, not your feed. Take inventory of your real daily habits. Are you acting in alignment with the person you claim to be? Or are you just branding yourself while living in contradiction? This is not the moment to shame yourself. This is not about guilt. It's about clarity. You can't fix what you won't face. Be brutal with your honesty, but gentle with your tone. Look at your routines, your mindset, your discipline, and just observe. That alone is progress. Don't try to overhaul your life in a week. That's performative energy again. Instead, ask, what is one trait my online self embodies that I deeply desire to live? Maybe it's focus. Maybe it's courage. Maybe it's presence. Whatever it is, wake up tomorrow and anchor your day to that trait. Not in big, flashy ways, in small, consistent actions. Ask yourself moment by moment, what would that version of me do right now? And then do it. Quietly, without applause, without sharing. If the performance is what's keeping you stuck, take a break from it. Delete the content you know isn't real, pause your posting, log out if you have to. This isn't about going ghost, it's about going real. Stop posting what you haven't earned. Stop pretending you're already there. Let the results speak before the internet does. You're not here to entertain. You're here to evolve. This is the ultimate shift. Flip the entire order. From now on, don't document your life to prove anything. Live with integrity first. Let your habits speak louder than your content. And if someday you do decide to share, let it be from a place of overflow, not insecurity. You're not an influencer, you're a transformer of your own life. And transformation doesn't need followers, it just needs follow-through. This is how you close the gap, not by pretending better, but by becoming better. One trait, one habit, one honest day at a time. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most of us aren't addicted to growth. We're addicted to appearing like we're growing. That's the trap of social media. It gives you the illusion of progress without demanding the price of actual transformation. You post a photo at the gym, and for a moment, you feel like you're disciplined. You share a quote about focus, and suddenly you feel a little more productive. But deep down, you know what's happening. You're not living the life, you're performing it. And the most dangerous part? It feels good. Likes feel like achievement. Comments feel like connection. Reposts feel like relevance. Each notification becomes a small hit of dopamine, a fleeting rush that tricks your brain into believing you're moving forward. But you're not. You're just decorating the cage you've built for yourself. You look busy, you look driven, but the substance, it's missing. You can look disciplined without ever enduring the pain of discipline, and after a while, even you start to confuse the two. This constant performance creates a dependency, not just on the validation, but on the identity that brings it. You start needing people to believe you're growing, because deep down, you don't believe it yourself. And that's where it turns toxic. Your confidence becomes tied to how you're perceived, not who you actually are. As one line so perfectly puts it, if your confidence lives in your Instagram feed, it dies in your silence. So why is it so hard to stop? Because the performance works. It soothes your insecurity. It buys you approval. It gives you a sense of motion, even when you're standing still. But it's fake fuel, and eventually the engine will stall. You can only pretend for so long before the real you starts knocking. And when that moment comes, it won't ask how many likes you got. It'll ask, what did you build when no one was watching? That's the question that separates the performer from the powerful. Reclaiming your true identity. At some point in this journey, you have to decide, are you here to impress people or become someone you're proud of when no one's looking? Becoming whole means dropping the act, not because you're giving up, but because you're finally waking up. You see, the real you isn't broken. It isn't boring. It's just buried under layers of performance, pressure, and perception. You've spent so much time building an identity to be seen that you've forgotten how to be. Wholeness isn't about perfection. It's not about having every piece of your life figured out. It's about alignment, about living in such deep truth that you don't need to convince anyone of anything. No more posturing, no more proving, just being. That's the power of integrity. That's where real self-worth is born. Not from likes, not from praise, but from peace. Peace that comes when who you are, what you do, and what you believe are finally in sync. And here's the beautiful twist. The moment you stop performing, the real growth begins. You stop wasting energy on illusion, and you start investing it into substance. You begin to show up for your life, not your feed. You start to value results over reactions. You stop chasing applause and start building something that lasts. You don't need a bigger platform. You need a stronger foundation. You don't need more followers. You need more follow-through. Because your value never came from being visible. It came from being real. So if you've been waiting for permission to take the mask off, this is it. You don't need to live in fragments anymore. You can be whole. You can be true. And the world doesn't need another perfectly curated image. It needs someone courageous enough to live with nothing to prove. Who are you when no one's watching? In the end, it all comes down to one simple question. One that strips away the noise, the followers, the filters, the performance. Who are you when no one's watching? Not who you say you are, not who you post as, not who people think you are, but you. In the quiet, in the mirror, when the cameras are off and the notifications stop buzzing, when there's no performance to uphold, no audience to impress, just silence and self. That's the test, because if the version of you that exists in private feels empty while the version of you online looks powerful, then you're not successful. You're split, and no amount of likes can make up for the loneliness of living in pieces. The real work begins when you start living for the man or woman in the mirror, not the algorithm. When your actions match your values behind closed doors. When your habits align with your principles, even when no one will ever applaud you for them. That's where true character is forged. And the truth is, you don't rise to the level of your image. You fall to the level of your integrity. So here's the final challenge. Before you post again, prove it to yourself first. Before you preach it, practice it in silence. Before you seek attention, earn your own respect. Because self-worth isn't built through performance. It's built through private victories. So tonight, look in the mirror. Not to judge, not to critique, but to connect. Ask honestly, is the person I see the one I claim to be? And if the answer is no, then let today be the day you begin to close that gap. Not for them, not for the feed, for you. Because becoming real is the most powerful thing you'll ever do. You've probably heard the phrase, move in silence. But let's break that down. Because it's more than just a catchy quote. It's a strategy, a mindset, a commitment to substance over show. When you stop broadcasting every intention and start honoring them with quiet action, something powerful happens. Your growth becomes real. Building quietly means doing the work without needing applause. It means waking up early, showing up for your goals, pushing through discomfort, and telling no one. Not because you're hiding, but because you're grounded. Because you've learned the difference between validation and value. You see, when everything has to be visible to feel meaningful, you lose your power. But when you build in silence, your self-respect grows in the dark, like roots strengthening beneath the soil. And eventually, you don't have to announce who you are. Your energy speaks for you. Your results show up long before you do. Your presence becomes your proof. And here's the real win. When you finally do shine, when people start to notice the change, it's not hype. It's not fabrication. It's not for show. It's earned. It's the kind of glow that can't be faked because it came from the grind. You weren't trying to be seen. You were trying to become. And now, you are. So stop trying to impress the world with promises. Impress yourself with discipline. Keep your transformation sacred. Let the quiet work stack. Let your actions build a story worth telling, one no filter could ever capture. Build quietly, shine authentically. Because the ones who glow the brightest are the ones who earned it in the dark. Here's the truth no one tells you. The most powerful version of you will look nothing like the person you are today. And that's not something to fear. That's something to run toward. Growth, real growth, should make you unrecognizable to your past self. Your mindset, your habits, your energy, your presence. It should evolve so radically that the old you wouldn't even know how to talk to the person you've become. This isn't about aesthetics. This isn't about upgrading your wardrobe or flexing a morning routine. This is about becoming so aligned, so grounded, so whole, that pretending becomes impossible because there's nothing left to fake. You've spent enough time curating your potential for strangers. Now it's time to become it for yourself. So here's your final challenge. Audit your image. Delete the performance. Reclaim your identity. Choose one trait. Embody it daily. Commit to the mirror, not the metrics. And then get so consistent, so disciplined, so real, that 6 months from now, your old self wouldn't believe who you became. Because here's the truth. You're only one season of obsession away from being unrecognizable. Not to the world, to yourself. And if you can do that, if you can become the person you've only pretended to be online, then you won't need a platform. You'll be the platform. A walking testament to what happens when a human being finally aligns with their truth. Don't post about it, live it, and let them wonder how you did it. Self-respect is not earned through public praise. It's built privately in the moments no one sees. It's forged in the choices you make when you could cut corners but don't. When you could lie to save face but choose honesty instead. When you say no to what's easy and yes to what's aligned. Most people seek self-esteem through performance, but here's the secret. You don't earn respect by being impressive. You earn it by being consistent. And not just consistent with your habits, but consistent with your values. That's real self-respect, when your actions match your principles, and you know it. You don't need to tell anyone. The confidence lives in your bones. You won't build this through posting. You build it when you say, I promised myself I'd show up, and I did. Do that 100 times in silence, and watch how loud your presence becomes. You've watched the videos. You've saved the quotes. You've shared the reels. But here's the question that changes everything. What have you built from it? We live in a world addicted to motivation, but allergic to execution. It's easier to scroll than to start, easier to fantasize than to follow through. But consuming inspiration is not the same as becoming inspired. One is passive, the other is creative. Stop worshiping people who built themselves and start building yourself. Every time you consume without creating action, you reinforce the idea that others are the ones capable of change, not you. But every time you take even one step toward your potential, you're writing your own story instead of just reposting someone else's. It's time to stop curating a personality and start constructing a person. You are the architect of your future, so grab the tools, stop scrolling, and start sculpting. Becoming the person you pretend to be online won't happen in 30 days. This isn't a challenge. This is your life. And the real change? It's slow, it's gritty, it's unseen, which is why most people quit. Not because it's hard, but because it's not fast enough to brag about. But the slow path is the real one. You're not building hype. You're building a legacy. That takes time. When you embrace the slowness, you stop chasing shortcuts. You stop comparing your day 20 to someone else's year 5. You stop asking, why is this taking so long? And start asking, what can I build today that will still matter 10 years from now? So settle in. Go deep. Build slow. Let the roots grow before you worry about the spotlight. Because when you do it right, you won't need to go viral. You'll go forever. You can't become a new person in the same old environment. If you're surrounded by people who only know the version of you that's performative, safe, or small, you'll keep shrinking to fit that identity. But here's the truth. You are not weak. You are overexposed to comfort. If your room drains you, clean it. If your circle limits you, outgrow it. If your habits trap you, interrupt them. Change doesn't begin in your feed. It begins in your space. Want to become the person you post as? Build a life that supports that version of you. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems, and that includes your environment. So shift it, shape it, reinvent it if you must. You're not just building a new identity. You're building the world it will live in. Think about the person you want to become 5 years from now. Not the fantasy version for Instagram, the real one. The one who shows up with clarity, consistency, calm. Now ask, what would they think of the choices I'm making today? Would they be proud of your mornings, your attention, your discipline? Or would they wonder why you sold yourself short for likes? This isn't guilt, this is vision. You're not just living for the version of you now, you're shaping the version you'll meet later. Your future self is watching, so make decisions today that they'll thank you for. The habits you build now become their reality. The discipline you choose now becomes their freedom. That person you keep pretending to be online, they're waiting for you to catch up. The final truth, don't just pretend, become. So here you are, at the edge of the old version of yourself and the beginning of something real. You've worn the mask. You've played the part. You've learned how to look successful, focused, disciplined, magnetic, but deep down, you know when it's real, and you know when it's just for show. This is your moment to choose, to step out of performance and into presence, to stop chasing image and start honoring identity, because pretending might get you attention, but becoming, that will give you peace. So take the next step. Not in your feed, in your life. Log off if you have to, burn the illusion if you must, and go meet the version of you that's been waiting behind the noise, the one you've hinted at, posted about, dreamed of. It's time. Don't just pretend. Become.